All right, and it looks like we are live. What's up, Fred fam? Welcome back to another CFN live stream party. Today's stream is going to be super fun. It's our second episode of a Fred Table Talk, which means today's stream is all about our network members. But before we get into everything we've got planned for today, you might be noticing a new face or two on the screen. So I think some intros will be good to go through before we get started. So I'll go first. I'm Anira. I am the Operations and Community Manager here at Federator. If you've written a support ticket, you've probably had a conversation with me. I'm helping out with any and all network and YouTube related problems. I'm writing all of your newsletters. I'm helping you bring in new channels into the network. I'm your new host for live streams going forward. And I'm on Discord as well. If any of you have talked to me, I'm No Mercy Nears. But my job here is to mostly make the community space a better one. Polly, go.
Hi guys. You have seen me in most live streams if you've tuned in before, and so you can see my dog breathing in the background. And yeah, I'm a talent manager, so I do maybe like more of the strategy, trying to avoid problems conversations. That said, if anyone's had a problem and not talked to Anira, you're missing out. She's very helpful. So yeah, together we do the Fred Table Talk, and we just are trying to highlight the success stories of the creators in the network, and you know, just try to learn something in the process too. So you've got two really great guests today.
Yep, so our guests today are Saberspark and Toon Ruins. Some of you may already be familiar with these creators, but if you're not, let's give them an intro. Saberspark, do you want to start us off?
Yes, first off, you said your dog's sleeping behind you, Polly, so is mine.
Oh, good.
Right there.
My cat's sleeping behind me, but you can't see him.
My name is Saberspark. It's my online alias. I go by, been going by that name for like, geez, since 2011 or so. I got my start on YouTube officially in like 2015, just talking about just animated stuff. Oh, why cartoons are like this, or let's talk about Cartoon Network. Let's talk about Nickelodeon. Let's talk about Disney. And I guess the algorithm on YouTube was like, that's pretty cool. Let's get this guy's content out there, which is just, I'm very blessed and lucky that even happened to begin with. And now I find myself in the fortunate position of still trying to pretend like I know anything about cartoons and animation. So that's my story.
Happy 10-year anniversary with the name.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah, it's amazing how time was like that. I'm like, whoa. So I technically have been on YouTube since 2007, but I didn't make anything until around truly make something until like 2011. So, and that was like, wow, it's amazing how much the platform's changed since then. It's an entirely different animal.
Yeah, definitely.
Basically grown with it, pretty much.
Right. I feel like an old man where I see comments where folks look at my videos and be like, I remember watching this when I was a kid, and I'm like, oh, the wrinkles and the white hairs, and I'm like, yeah, no, it's getting worse. Every day it gets even worse. Oh well, that's how it is. I can't wait till I actually got on TikTok for the first time like a week ago, and I'm like, what's the fuss about? And I'm like, oh, this is where the boomers and zoomers have been hiding. Okay, because I don't touch Facebook anymore because Facebook just sucks. And I went to TikTok, and I'm like, okay, I can see why it's fun. I can also see why it's awful. Got it.
Yeah, you gotta. That's an algorithm you have to really curate, put in the time to curate for yourself.
I'm scared of it. I feel like if I watch a video for too long, I'm like, don't be careful. They might think you like this stuff.
I know.
You can see the algorithm actively being like the zeros and ones going human likes cats. And I'm like, well, yeah. And it's like, I'm sorry. I'm going into Leah's time. I apologize. All right.
You're fine.
I'm sorry.
You're fine.
ADD.
I get that.
Right. It's brought to you by ADD Gang.
Correct.
ADD TikTok, I'm so sorry, is a great corner though.
Right, it really is. I saw one where it had like this guy who was like, I took my ADD medication and he's about to eat some breakfast. He's like, oh, like because he's like, my hunger died. And it's like, yeah, your hunger is just gone. All right, I'm done. Leah, go for it.
Hello, so I'm Toon Runes, otherwise known as Leah. Toon Runes is sort of a newer alias, I guess. Like about 3 years ago, I just went by Leah C. So if you know me by that one, that's just me. Also, I started out making AMVs, so not like analysis and theory videos before. So the analysis and theory stuff is newer, but not like super new. So that's what I do. I do analysis and theories on themes and cartoons, and that's about it. Much shorter intro than Savers, but
and very complete at the same time, though.
that's
Right.
true.
AMVs, what a place to come from. Because I come from technically PMVs, which I guess I'll talk about that later on. It just are all of our collected cringy backgrounds, which we're like,
Right.
yeah, embrace it. That's
I am
true
cringe,
passion.
but I am free.
But right. But I'm an artist, a cringe artist. Let's go.
That does kind of launch into the first question I wanted to ask each of you. Is what was the pull to getting online in the first place, or what made you feel like you had to share your thoughts on this thing, or add your voice to the mix?
Like, okay, so this is gonna sound like a really weird comparison, but hopefully it's relatable. When you're in a really long car ride and you're listening to music and you have like that, you're like, oh, this would go really good to a show. Mm-hmm. And you just imagine making an AMV to that show in your head. That's kind of what happened, because I was like, wait a minute, I can actually do this. It doesn't need to be imaginary. And then I started doing that. And then I was making stuff for Steven Universe, just like AMVs and like funny edits and stuff. And then I came up with a theory and I was like, I really don't feel like typing this out. So I'm going to make a video on it, because I just got tired of sending the same written like TED talk to all of the people that I wanted to send my theory to. And I was just like, I could just make a video and then send it to people. And then that's basically where everything started. And I started going into theories and analysis more than the AMV aspect.
That's awesome. I love that like feeling of just like, I started it because the ideas just kept coming out of me.
Basically, yeah, that's what happened. I just like, it's once I started, I was just like, oh, I like doing this. I'm not going to stop now.
That's awesome. Saber, what about you?
Man, I feel like I was born in 88. I swear to God, this won't be like one of those, I was born in a log cabin in 88 kind of thing. But no, I'm a millennial, and I feel like millennials bridge the gap between boomers to zoomers as far as the internet goes, where I, in like the late 90s, being like, Mom, I got to go on cartoonnetwork.com and play the games. And by God, I did, and they were great. And then you have the evolution of the internet, where it kind of became kind of quirky and a bit off the beaten path as far as understanding it. But I still was here for it, where I'm like, I want to play these games. I want to go on to AOL.com and chat it up. But long story short, when YouTube kind of became a thing in like 2005, though I didn't start using it until 2006. I'm like, this is really cool. Like, people can just upload things. That's what blows my mind. And I started off making YouTube poops and just kind of goofing off with like Windows Movie Maker editing programs, and for the life of me couldn't figure out how to even download clips. I'm like, how do people do this? How do they download clips? And then it wouldn't be until like the early 2010s where I'm like, okay, technology is kind of advanced enough to have editing programs available and downloading programs available for folks to just not spend $1,000 on. So just took from there, where I'm like, it was intoxicating to see folks actually make stuff and for there to actually be an audience to watch it. And I'm like, I want to do that. I still have my first YouTube video I've ever made on my obscure 4th channel, which is like no one knows about. And I'm like, wow, I can't watch it and not cringe. But I think that's, dude, if you're not cringing at your first video, then something's wrong. Exactly. You gotta it's humble beginnings.
I'm gonna write that down, honestly. It's
Right. Well, no one's good at what they ever do to begin with. That defeats the point of becoming good. Not saying that I'm any good with what I do, but I'm much better than where I was in 2007. But yeah, it's just kind of wild to see like rage comics from the 2010 and all those meme jokes, and then like, wow, here we are. Everyone's online. Everyone's doing it. The moment where I was like, uh-oh, was when my parents, who knew I made YouTube videos in 2012, in 2016, were like, we're starting to watch your stuff, Stephen. These are
Oh no.
videos. I'm like,
Oh my god.
you
That would be
found
my
them?
reaction too.
Right. I was like, oh no. Like there was a moment in like the mid 2010s where it clicked over from like 20, I'd say 15 to 16, where folks started to actually use the internet like day-to-day life stuff, where it's like Facebook and YouTube and whatever. And that's when I got scared. And that's also when my career launched off in an official capacity. But yeah, I mean, that's where I got my start, just goofing off, playing with it, and being like, the internet's cool. I want to be on the internet. And having my parents being like, don't you ever talk to people on the internet. Don't trust everything you hear on the internet. And then I see them now resharing like these conspiracy theories on Facebook. And I'm like, oh my God.
Follow your own advice.
Right. Whatever. That's another story for another day. But yeah, the internet's wild and it really has blown up. And it's like, consider like when it was like the late 2000s, early twins, where it's like, wow, look at the top performers on YouTube. That's Fred. That's Fred from the hit channel Fred. He's got 200,000 subscribers. And now it's like 200,000 subscribers. You'll get there someday. And it's like,
basically,
no, it's 200,000 people. That's huge.
That's huge.
Right.
Like when you think of like 200,000 people, that feels like a football stadium of people. It's amazing how like the way we perceive numbers online, where it's like, you haven't broken 1 million, you'll get there someday. You'll succeed someday. And it's like, what are you talking about? 200,000 people. That's a lot. That's an army. That is huge. So
like even
whatever.
like 10,000 and 100 people are still
Right.
a lot of people. Especially like individually, if you think about it, each of those people are their own person. It's not like they're just a number. So you have like 100 people that want to hear what your opinions are. You have 100,000 people that want to hear what your opinions are. Like that's a lot of people.
It's unreal. Like I remember when I broke 10,000 subscribers back in the early 2010s, and I'm like, okay, forgive me. Here we go, nerd. I was like, wow, that's the size of the army that invaded Helm's Deep in Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. Wow.
And look what they did.
Yeah, they blew up the wall. Good times.
That's a good unit of measurement though. Like that should be like from YouTube. They should be like, your channel is now the size of the Trojan army, and you can fit all of your viewers in a horse, and then your channel is the size of the Lord of the Rings. And that would be
that would be cool if they did that. I know they sent like with the play button, they did send like somewhat of a personal message, but not really. But I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was something along those lines. They're like, yeah, thank you when you had 100 subscribers and now you're at 100,000. It was nice.
That is nice.
It is cool to be like, wow, that's 100,000 individual people who are like, I like the content enough to subscribe to it. And that's an accomplishment. I remember breaking 100 and I was like, whoa.
Right.
Like, because think about my buddy Jordan has his own channel called Jack's Blade. He put it into this perspective. Like, imagine sitting in a room talking to people, just talking to them physically. If it's 100 people, that's intimidating. Like,
it is.
Wow, 100 people. Like, I got scared in college talking in front of 10 people, but like 100,000, get out of town. You kidding me? I'd be like, I can't do it. Bye. I'm gonna go home and make YouTube videos. Can't do this in person.
No, I always think when people are like, oh, I can speak in front of a huge crowd, but like not individually. And I'm like, but a huge crowd is individuals. Like,
it is. Yep.
But they can see me in real time.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah, it is kind of weird how like social media in general has created like this disconnect between us actually realizing like the amount of people that we're talking to. Because I know like even for me, because I've just gotten so used to it now because I've been doing this for like 2 years, but I've just gotten used to, oh yeah, this is just a number game. But then when you actually step back and think about, oh, each of these individual views is somebody who watched this individually and had their own unique thoughts and perspective on what I'm saying. And that's kind of like, you can't even really, it's not really conceivable. You can't even like understand, I don't think, because once it gets past like a certain level, like I'm not thinking, oh, there's like 1 million people who viewed this video. Like that's an insane amount of people to have seen something that you made and had their own opinions and thoughts on it. It's kind of crazy.
It is. It is. It really is. The internet. It's insane to think of. Like, I remember having, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm intruding onto the questions that's lie before us. So I'm going to pull back for now.
This is the table talk, though.
Exactly. Talk.
Mhm.
So to say.
Leah, remember the first time you got a comment that was negative and it just ruined your day?
Yes, I did. It's just like, and it's even now, like, you can get like 100 positive comments and get that one negative comment, and it brings your mood down like by a lot for like the rest of the day. And it's just like, okay, but 100 of these comments were positive, and now this one comment was negative, and now I'm gonna let that like upset me over like the other opinions.
Right. Apparently there's actually been a study for that. I forget the exact name of the study. It's called like the I forget. I'll have to look it up. But the idea is that you can have 100 people being like, hey, your video rocked. I loved it. Thank you so much. But the one person who's like, you could have been better. You slurred your words, or this is a really weak writing or whatever. And it just devastates your day. And you're like, I suck. You have 100 people being like, I love this. What are you talking about? This is great. But the one sour voice ruins it. And apparently it's the same thing with like, you can just the idea of us humans being like, you can do 100 people love your stuff, or you do great for 100 people, but that one sour note just tanks, it erases all the positive feedback. Go figure, man. It sucks. It's like, why can't I just enjoy like what I did right? Why did I have to let this one sour? That's why I don't really read YouTube comments anymore. I'm like, no, for my own mental health, I can't do this, because I'm not saying it in a way of ignorance where it's like they don't know what they're talking about, but more of a, there's, if you really want to get good constructive feedback, go to Twitter, look for those comments or emails, or like, I don't know, look at the like bar. Like if your likes are 50-50, okay, you said something controversial or a bad take or something. But if it's like 95-5, that's just 5% of people just hating you because you're doing what they want to do instead. I don't know. There's no doubt that there are people who don't care. You can literally create the Mona Lisa and they're like, I don't know, man, it could have done better. And it's like, oh, okay.
You could have smiled a little softer. Something. It's always a complaint.
Right. Always.
Yeah.
I kind of want to like backtrack just a little bit because you both touched on this when you first introduced your channels, but and I think I can speak for everyone too. I would love to hear what your ideal goal was with your channel, and then kind of what caused the transition to be where you're at today. Like, was it just the technology? Was it like, oh, my ideas changed? Oh, I think this now. Like, what was your original plan? Why are you here now?
Leah, would you like to go first, or would you like me to go first?
Doesn't matter either way. Did you need a moment to think about it, or?
I think I can answer this if you want to take a moment to like form an answer. Because for me, it's like, I don't know, it's pretty straightforward. Where
Go first.
I'll go first. So, I feel like for a lot of content creators online, and I could be wrong nowadays, because like I got online as a viewer, where I made an account on YouTube to watch and comment and make playlists for watching videos. I wanted to be able to catalog what the folks I subscribed to made, versus nowadays where I remember going to like this autumn festival back in like 2017. It was at my dad's neighborhood. He's like, Steven, come join your sister and myself, and we'll go walk around and just hang out. I'm like, okay. And my little sister and I were in line for this one, like, ride where you get in this plastic ball and run around in it, because my nephew, who was like 4 at the time, wanted to do it. So we're standing in line waiting. There were two young boys behind me. They're on their phones, and my little sister turns around out of nowhere. I didn't ask for this. My little sister's like, "Hey, have you heard of SaberSpark?" I'm like, "Rachel, what are you doing?" And they're like, "No." And then the kids put one of their phones in my hand saying, "Pull it up." And I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, "Okay, SaberSpark." And I showed them, and they're like, "Not bad." And I'm like, "Thanks." And I'm like, "I'm curious, what do you all want to do when you grow up?" And they're like, Twitch streamers, play games, Twitch stream. I'm like, okay. So I bring this up to say that you got a lot more people nowadays who know it's a viable career path where you could genuinely just do YouTube or Twitch videos for a living and do just fine, do great, possibly. It's like, who needs to go take on student loans for college when you just go to Twitch, whatever. So that was an enlightening moment for me to realize that, like, where in the early 2010s it was like you might become this if you're lucky. Now it's like the way of thinking for consumers nowadays is like, let's go to work. Like, I can make a Twitch channel, I can make a YouTube channel. The audience is there, they're hungry for it. YouTube's a rotating door, revolving door. I forget, whatever. One of those spinny doors. So it's different, but for me, it started off as a consumer of other people's content, and I made my own content, and then to my own surprise, I'm like, wow, folks actually care what I have to say. All right, let's keep drilling into this. And here I am. I failed upwards. That's where I can't stress this enough. There's so much luck involved where YouTube, the gods of YouTube's algorithm are like, we'll bless Leah today. Her Steven Universe video, the gods smile kindly upon it. Bless it. Give her an algorithmic boost. And it's like,
you're right though, because I see boosts randomly all the time out of nowhere, just randomly. And then sometimes I'll post a video and it just flops and it's like, oh, so the algorithm hates me today.
The gods of algorithm. If there's ever a true god in this world, it's the algorithmic gods. you sacrifice like your own sanity and mental well-being to the gods of the algorithm. You're like, I pray to the algorithms that you bless my video, make my last month of research actually worth a damn, and not be tossed aside into the pits of 3 viewers who might see it someday if they Google it. Honestly, I can't stress this enough. There's so much luck involved with succeeding on YouTube. So for those who are listening in the chat or whatever, don't beat yourself up over whether you are good enough. Sometimes YouTube's algorithm just says no. And you could literally, again, create the Mona Lisa, and YouTube's like, I don't know, man. There's not enough Fortnite in this for us to really care. And it's like, oh, okay. So yeah, started as a person who wanted just to make an account so I can make a playlist, and then I made my own content, and YouTube said, we kind of like this, and I'm like, okay, cool, I guess we'll keep running with that momentum.
I think, just to jump in, like, I think that that's a really good thing to highlight, because what you're saying, like, it's so much more strategic nowadays, and like that's even like this business is like, no, let's calculate how to get success and how to map that out and everything. But like, there's still so much unpredictability, randomness, luck, disluck, favor, lack of, like, that hasn't gone away at all, even though like more things have come in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So much luck involved. It's a matter of catching lightning in a bottle. And when you do, you're like, okay, what? Like my buddy, I have a friend, his online alias is Black Griffin. He was on YouTube Rewind in 2019. He had a video that got over 100 million views. He was the top 10 most viewed videos of 2019. It was like number 8 on the list or something like that. I spoke to him on the phone a few days ago, and he's like, yeah, I'm having trouble getting my videos back in the algorithm because I took a break because the guy's trying to get into like this program to actually go on a spaceship to the goddamn moon. Something like that. He's a genius. So he's like, I'm gonna take some time to focus on this versus doing YouTube videos.
Does not like that.
No, YouTube does not like breaks. I'm sorry, that's the truth. They're all like, take some time for yourself, and it's like, shut up.
Take some time for yourself, but if you do, we'll completely kick you out of the algorithm.
Whoa, wow, look at these giant red arrows going down. Ooh, it looks like you're down literally 0.5%. Ooh, you're
Sorry,
feeling.
it looks like your audience isn't clicking on this video as much as your others. Maybe you did something wrong.
Yeah, maybe it's you. And it's like, YouTube, what the hell? So, that being said, the fact that you have a guy with over 4 million subscribers who had a video that's 1/3 of the US population who's feeling the heat, my God, take that as a bit of evidence that YouTube is not a mentally healthy point of view when it comes to being a creator. I don't say this to bring despair to potential content creators, but like, just know that don't judge the value of your own art to the YouTube algorithm. I've seen videos where I'm like, this is brilliant. Like, why does it have 1,000 views? This should have 1 million views. But YouTube's algorithm is just bizarre that way, where it sometimes will just dismiss videos into oblivion, versus like, why does this video that's an upload of some commentator getting 1 million views when the original source is so much better? So the nature of the beast can be potentially unforgiving, but because there's the business side of YouTube, and then there's the artistic side of YouTube. To my fellow artists, don't be hard on yourselves. You're worth it. It's not you, it's YouTube. So be kind to yourself. Be patient with yourself. You can do it. You just have to outlast the algorithm, and you can. Trust me.
Also, too, like with the whole number talk, like numbers aren't really indicative of success, in my opinion. Like if you it comes down to a matter of what you personally believe is successful and not what the masses believe is successful. Because if you're happy with like, oh, like 10 people liked what I had to say and they watched it, if that's successful to you, that's successful to you. You can't like put corporate identity of success at the top of your list, because if that's the case, you're not ever going to be happy, because most likely most of us are never going to get to 24 million subscribers like Markiplier. That's just not feasible. But you could still be successful if you aren't on like the level of Markiplier, for example. So, just don't define success by what corporate defines success by.
YouTube, it almost forces you to never stop trying to push your subscriber count as high as you possibly can. Here's the ugly truth. You will hit a glass ceiling eventually, or just a ceiling where it's like, that's your cap. That's okay. Like, my God, like, again, to go back to having like 200,000, 100,000 supporters, that's a lot. Like, for what it's worth, when you look at TV networks nowadays, I looked at their ratings where you got things like, they brought in 30,000 viewers. What the hell? I brought in 100,000. Why are they being paid so much and I'm not? So don't sell yourself short on your own accomplishments. The world's still changing. There's this transition from television to the internet currently. And hopefully, once TV dies, we'll start reaping more of those rewards and get paid more. But for the time being, like, the fact that I see people who, like, you made a video just for fun of you walking down the road talking about your thoughts about the recent season of Infinity Train. And you got 100
Infinity Train.
Right. Repping.
Watch on HBO Max.
Dude, HBO Max has been actually really thrown down. But to stay focused, like, you're getting 3 times the amount of views than genuine TV networks. Like, my God, don't sell yourself short. We're still in this new age that's evolving. So hold strong, stick to it. You can outlast it, this transition. And hopefully, because I've noticed a lot more companies are like, why are we going to TV networks to advertise when we can go to someone like Leah or other content creators and just go right to the source and get 100,000 eyes on our products, plus some good content to go with it, and not deal with this stupid TV network? Yeah, of course. You'll get there. The world's still changing. Hold tight to it. It's going to keep going.
The words of wisdom.
I'm so sorry for being as stupid as I am. You guys are like, So question 2 of 14.
No, this is the table talk.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what we this is the pearls here. That's what we're getting.
Right.
Leah, do you have anything you want to add before I go to another question?
I could just be really, really brief with it to answer the question. But my idea goal when I was starting, so like I'm a 90s baby, so I was basically growing up when everything was starting to blow up in terms of like online and innovation and technology. So online spaces for fandoms weren't as popular when I was growing up to talk. Like maybe when I was in my late teenage years, yeah, like Tumblr was really, really popular, for example, but it wasn't like super popular when I was younger. So like my goal when I was starting to get into like the more serious side of YouTube was to get people thinking and talking about the media that they were consuming, because I know at least when I was a teenager, I didn't really have that outlet to talk about the things that I like to talk about. Because I know, I'm sure you guys have experienced this as well, but like if you're the nerdy kid in school, like openly, you're gonna have problems. So you didn't really have that space or outlet to talk about these things. So the goal is just kind of, for my channel personally, is to get people thinking about the media that they're consuming and then have a space to talk about it, especially if it's like younger people who may not openly have that space and fears of being like ostracized, for example.
Leah, do you feel that like because us nerds actually are becoming kind of cool online, that things are changed where the jocks are like, wait, we play Fortnite?
I mean, I think it's definitely had an influence, especially like with how popular these people are, because people aren't watching TV shows as much, especially younger kids. They're not watching TV. They're online watching either streaming services whenever they want, or they're watching YouTubers or streamers. And it seems like more likely they're watching YouTubers and streamers because you have sort of like that connection with the person, whereas with like corporately made things, you don't necessarily feel that. And especially like I feel with the pandemic, when a lot of kids are feeling scared and alone because they're isolated, you're not at school and what have you, they're more likely to latch on to a creative because they can feel like somewhat of a connection with them.
Huge. I completely agree with you. Like the connection you can build with like the folks who like love Markiplier. Like my girlfriend loves Markiplier.
I love him too. He's great.
The people grew up with him.
I did.
It's like,
yeah, I did too.
Where like we grew up with, like I grew up with Powerpuff Girls or Rugrats, but like that's a show. It's very one directional versus Markiplier is like, hey, how's it going? I want to talk to you. I hope you're doing well. And it's like, oh, Mark, thank you. Like that's unreal. That's a new form of entertainment. That's like uncharted territory. So like,
and it adds to it too, because there's the relatability with certain creators. Like for Markiplier, for example, like he is somebody who came from humble beginnings. He's a college dropout. So it's just like he's somebody who's very relatable to somebody who came from nothing and was having a difficult time. It was like at the lowest point of their life, and then all of a sudden they came up from nothing and they became one of the most influential creators on YouTube. And it's just like, oh, like you feel that personal connection because you can see where they came from, and maybe you're in a similar position and now they're all the way up at the top and they have like their own YouTube originals. There's like a rumor going around that he's an actor in the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Like it's huge. Yeah, like it's just,
I hope so.
I hope so too.
Scott Cawthon be praised. I hope so. The relatability thing is so huge because that's something where it's so hard for TV to be relatable to people, because it's very like we present to you versus like Game Grumps or Markiplier or Jacksepticeye, where it's like they can just do a video where they're like, I'm just typing my life and I hope that you're all doing well. And that feels a lot more relatable, where you're like, I'm connecting, because there's not as many strings being held by like the Viacom being like, no, how dare you to bring up our new SpongeBob series. Markiplier is like, I'm just talking about my life. Here's Chica. And it's like, wow, Chica. So it's
complaining about Del Monte corn for an entire video.
My girlfriend got really into the Unis Honest stuff,
yes, Unis Honest.
During which I was kind of like, I like Mark, I respect him, but I don't really participate in the content. Not anything against him, it's just not my kind of thing. but I have a lot of respect for him. And it sounds like him and Ethan really helped out a lot of folks who were like basically kind of cut off to the world during 2020. And it's like, what a really cool experiment that like this channel will be deleted and fall into oblivion forever.
Yep.
That's awesome.
I
That's
followed
so cool.
it from start to end, and it was literally the best experience that I had of 2020 because it added a schedule and repetition in a year that didn't have any because it couldn't have any. So it was like every single day at the same time you had this video that was coming out, and you knew that it was going to come out because it was the one constant in 2020 that you had. And they kept going, and they admitted that it was difficult, and sometimes they had videos where they just didn't do much because they were like, yeah, well, we're not feeling up to it today. But you got to see their journey from the start to end, and they had covered it in their live stream too. They were like, yeah, you can tell we were completely different people at the start of the year and towards the end. And like, you can even look at our hairstyles are completely different, like the way that we carry ourselves and interact with each other completely different. And you had something that was really special because you watched their relationship develop in real time while this was all going on during a pandemic when we couldn't have like really close relationships with people. So I feel like it helped fill in that hole where we didn't really have much in that entire year.
To add to that, I think one of the most interesting things about YouTube compared to television is the relatability aspect, where at the end of the day, we're all human. We all have families and friends. We all have our day-to-day living. And to be able to relate to it, where if Mark's like, well, I prefer steak fries over curly fries, people can relate to that. Where it's like, oh, curly fries are amazing. Mark, what are you talking about? I'm just pulling that example out of nowhere. I don't even know if he said that, but like, they're like, food is a huge thing for us to be able to relate to. When people are like waffles versus pancakes, it's like, well, hold on, pancakes. Who are we talking about? Waffles are superior. That I find that to be some of the most relatable, beautiful parts of being a human. Is just the basic common denominators of existing. So for Mark and Ethan to keep it real and have fun, whether it be like extremes like Mark hopping into the ocean or just a day where he and Ethan are just talking about just shooting the breeze or whatever, that's relatable. That's a huge edge that content creators on YouTube have over television, and why a lot of people from Zoomers, millennials, and even boomers are like, I think we're done with TV. Like, TV can still do sports, which, let's be real here, is coming online at this point. Because, like, you want to know what really changed the game, folks, when it comes to the internet? This. Smartphones.
Yep. You're right. Watch anything, anywhere, anytime.
Right. As my phone squawks at me. No, this was the game changer. This was it, because I can be in my bed at 4 a.m. where I'm like, I can't sleep. I'll watch videos. TV can't do that, or at least not as easily. So yeah. So for folks who ever feel like down on their content, where they're like, it was a rough day, channel that energy. Know that being relatable, being human, your audience connects to that more than you think. And seeing Unis Honest as the example that we pulled out of the nether, like, that's a huge, like, look at that as in a good example. People can connect with you for being you. Embrace it. Have fun with it. YouTube algorithms be damned. Like, have fun with it. So yeah, I don't know. Leah, sorry. As again, as a Markiplier adjacent, like, I can relate to that. So I hear you.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that just TV won't ever get the chance to do too, because they have to be so pre-approved, and they have to be scheduled out, and they have to do all this stuff, and everything has to make, and that's a good structure. Everything has to make sense in that way. Like, if a character does this, you have to plant that seed so they make sense as a character, and but that's just not how online is. You can be you can pick up your phone whenever you have to say something you want to say, and it makes sense because your character is just you, and the point of people watching you is, and you sharing, is so you guys can be together and you can do this together. And that is the thing that, like, does kind of, I think, wipe numbers out of the just out of the picture. Like, the point is like, you are with people in this time. you know, I'm sure it would feel good to have millions, but it still is however many people chose to watch you, is to share that.
There's also the point of you as an artist where you could try and be, I'm just going to pull examples out of just nowhere here. Like, oh, I got to be like Ninja, or I got to be like Logan or Jake Paul. There are some artists, like, for example, Red Letter Media, where they're incredibly content and happy with having like just shy over a million subscribers, which is still huge. But that's their comfort zone. They're like, we can sustain, we can do our art, we're content, we're happy, let's go. Versus someone like Markiplier, who's got 25 million almost subscribers or something like that. And he's content with that, and he's still doing his thing. There's a really interesting balance to it all, where it's like, I can sustain my life. I'm content with the amount I'm making, but also wake up in the morning going, let's get to work, guys. That's, if you can find a sustainable level of being able to provide for yourself, but also wake up in the morning excited about your art, that's huge. That's insane. Like, that's probably one of the coolest things you could ever accomplish, ever, is to wake up excited about your work and be able to provide for it just fine. Wow. Huge props. That's huge. I don't care if you got 100,000 subscribers or a million. That's an accomplishment. My God.
And keyword sustainable too. Glad you even included that in there.
Which is up to the individual. Sorry, I am just I'm derailing everything. I apologize.
There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah. That is the thing that I think each creator has to decide for themselves, but everyone has to decide that for themselves, is where do you draw the line of pleasing the algorithm, pleasing your audience, or doing this full time or doing this part time. Like, that's up to you, but like, everybody has to face that stuff.
It's interesting you bring up full-time versus part-time. I started part-time. I think most creators start part-time. I remember hitting my low point in life in 2015, where I got dumped by a girl who I thought was the love of my life, which was an eye-opener for me, on me to be a better person. Then also being fired from my sales job as a copier salesman. By the way, I was an awful copier salesman. And then I remember vividly going to Starbucks to get a job as a part-time barista. This is me, post-college, realizing my college was worthless, a poli-sci major. And then also being like, wow, I went through 2 jobs as copier salesman, and then going to Starbucks to beg for a job because my friend worked there and he put in a good word for me. And then going to a dinner with my family where my father actually did a toast. Who does that? Where he's like, here's to Sarah and Adam, my sister, my brother-in-law, for their new house. And here's to Rachel, my younger sister, for her new little child who's currently incubating in her. Oh, Steven, you got a job at Starbucks. Good job. And I was like, oh no, I feel like a failure.
It just honestly feels like a punch to the gut when stuff like that happens.
I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for going to Starbucks. If it wasn't for finding really cool coworkers, where the first month was torture, then I finally broke the ice and my coworkers and I were like this. And I remember working and I'm like, if we're going to work, let's have some fun. Hey, what do y'all think about cartoons? What do you think about animation? What do you think about this and that? And I realized, wow, a lot of folks have opinions about this. I should do a video. That's where I started.
The light bulb.
Right. It was like, wait a second, I can talk about cartoons. And that's where it started. I remember releasing a video in September of 2015, just being like, why cartoons aren't just for adults. Because I remember being like lambasted, or is that the right word? Whatever, being ridiculed at my sales job, where I remember going to work one day before I got fired. And I was like, I saw Frozen. And my coworker's like, you watch Frozen, but you're an adult man. And I'm like, so who cares? And then I'm like, that could be a fun video to talk about. And I remember it got 100,000 views in like a few days. And I'm like, oh, wait, I should make more. And I did. And it took off. And I was like, what the heck? Folks care about this stuff? And I'm like, okay, let's keep going. And that's where I got my start. Again, we live for the moment as humans. We live for the moment. You don't know what lies before you, whether it be a giant, learning experience as getting dumped or getting fired, or being humbled by going to Starbucks and realizing this is actually the rebound that will take you to where you are today. And I can't stress enough, it's luck, it's timing, and it's just finding your momentum and going, oh, I found it. Let's go. So yeah, like Leah, for you in Steven Universe, you found that momentum and you look at you.
Exactly.
You're subscribers. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah, like it, and the thing is too is like I was also like, it's just kind of weird because, okay, so a little backstory about me. I originally didn't want to go to college for the arts because I'm like, you grow up if you're an artist, your parents or like your community or whatever, or like, this is not a lucrative career for you to be doing. Like, you do not want to go into the arts, and our career is completely useless. You're not going to be able to pay rent. You're not going to be able to afford a house. You're not going to be able to afford anything. And that's usually like the consensus that you grow up with is, oh, don't go into the arts. Even if you know that that's your passion, even if you know that that's what you're good at, you can't do that. So I had been going to school for environmental science because that was the other thing that I was really good at. And I had went into like an agricultural high school. So I already had like the background and everything and the credentials. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just get a degree in environmental science instead. And then I was fine with it. Like I know a bunch about environmental science, but then I got into my last year before I was supposed to be getting my associate's degree in it, and I had to take chem, and I am not good at math. I cannot do math for the life of me. I couldn't ever do it in elementary, middle, or high school. I don't know why I thought I could do it when I was in college, but I could not do math. And I got an F in chemistry. And that was the final, I cannot stress enough, I had like a 20% in that class. It was absolutely ridiculous because I just did not know what I was doing. And I was thinking, oh God, what am I going to do with my life? Like, if I can't get this environmental science degree, like if I can't pass chemistry, then I'm not going to be able to get the degree. And if I want to get like my bachelor's or my master's, I need to do more math because it's a science, it's a STEM career. And I was freaking out.
You
and
are
then
not
YouTube
alone.
blew up.
You are not alone.
Yeah, it's just
I genuinely, I switched my major from college from business to poli-sci strictly because I was like, I remember talking to my mentor, and I was like, what requires the least amount of math? Poli-sci. I'll do poli-sci. Whatever.
But yeah, like it just like YouTube blew up around that time for me too, was when I had just failed my chemistry class, and then YouTube was like, hey, by the way, your last video got like 100,000 views, and I was like, oh, okay. And then like shortly after that, I switched my major to digital media, which is basically just the all-encompassing, this is literally everything that you're already doing except in a degree. So then I got my associates in digital media instead, and then continued to pursue YouTube more. I'm still not doing it full time as of right now. Like I'm still going back to college to get my bachelor's in digital media because I figure why not have that backup just in case, because people want that piece of paper saying you know what you're doing instead of just showing them your portfolio. But yeah,
that's awesome, Aaliyah. That no, honestly, though, like okay, so not to get too off the beaten path, but like, do you all ever feel like, I'm not sure about everyone in the call, but like again, millennial. Do y'all ever feel like we were kind of lied to about college, where we're told if you get a degree, you're good, and it's like I got the degree
downhill, like from there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
so because our parents were like that, where they're like, wow, you only own two, you don't own two homes, you don't even own one. It's like, of course we don't. We were just barely affording coffee. Like, my God, you all won't quit. You won't retire. There's no jobs. You lied to us.
Like the thing is too, is like, all right, so associates is supposed to be for entry-level jobs, right? So ESPN is like the only place where I live that offers digital media jobs, because there's nothing else here. Everything's in either Atlanta or California. You can't go anywhere else for digital media jobs. So the ESPN is like, oh yeah, you only need an associate's for this entry-level job, which I know I'm more than qualified for. And I literally only got an interview once, and I've been applying to them for like 2 years. And they tell you all you need is an associate's degree, but that's a lie. That's not all you need to get a job. So then I was just
You
like,
gotta,
I'm
Leah,
doing YouTube.
Leah, you gotta know the right people.
You do gotta know the right
That's
people.
is where, like, Leah, you could be completely qualified and educated, and some dumb son of a friend of the owners, like, we're going to give the job to this son. And it's like, what the heck? Like, I went to college. I'm qualified. And it's like, hey, we're going to hire the son because I owe a favor. And it's like, oh my God, we were lied to. We were absolutely lied to. So yeah, I guess I shared that with the audience, to the folks in the chat or wherever this is uploaded to. Don't beat yourself up. The system has not been as cool as it said it would have been. And that's why I think the internet blew up the way it did, is a lot of us were like, well, because I was trying to go to college for poli-sci, then sociology is my minor. And I'm like, what do I do? What am I even doing? Copy yourselves, whatever. And then the internet's like, we will bless you with this one chance, do something with it. And it's like, okay, I guess I will. And that's why you got so many folks nowadays who turn to the internet, where it's, I'll be a TikTok star, I'll be Instagram star, I'll be a YouTube star. Doesn't matter the website, as long as it provides bread on the table, I'll do it. There's nothing wrong with that.
There isn't.
Because we were lied by the boomers. They were like, go to college, you get a job. And it's like, where are the jobs?
There are no jobs. There literally are no jobs.
Well, it's like the manual labor was exported overseas, and the white collar jobs, well, we're not retiring. And it's like, oh, you lied to us. Got it. So for all of us millennials going to the internet to get jobs, go for it. I'm actually think it's pretty damn cool that it's like, yeah, that's our new playground, and we're making of it as we want. So,
and also just like going off of that, just when people try to shame you for not wanting to go to college or like community college, like I went to a community college. There's absolutely no shame in going to a community college. I remember when I was graduating high school, and the teachers shamed us. Like they were going down the line, like, where are you being accepted? I'm serious. I'm 100% serious. Like they didn't verbally shame us, but you could tell by the looks on their faces, like, oh, this student got into Harvard. Oh, this student got into the community college 5 minutes down the road. And you could tell because they had us go through what colleges we had gotten accepted to and what we wanted to do with our lives going forward, like the day before graduation. And I'm sitting here like, oh, I'm going to the community college. Like, and it's like, first off, I can't afford going anywhere that's a university unless I want to be in debt for the rest of my life. And
the system's rigged against the folks. Okay. Not to get too beaten off the beaten path here, but like, my God, the system hates the majority of folks, where it's like, yes, go into debt, you'll get a job, man. And it's like, oh, you lied to us. So yeah, to piggyback off of what you said, Leah, no shame for going to community college, no shame for going to any college. You
especially when like hard. most students also end up switching their major, and there's absolutely no reason why you should waste your money going into a major that you don't even know if whether you're going to like it or not, if you felt pressured by society into going into that major. So it's just like, go to community college. You're like, I know this is getting into general life advice, but go to community college like your first year or two, because by then first of all, you'll have an understanding if you want to be going into that field, because you'll be studying it professionally rather than the high school stuff where they're teaching you how to take tests instead of teaching you life skills. So you could be like, go into community college, get that year of experience in that field that you want to go into, and then not have to pay so many thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Like, community colleges are going to save you so much money in the long run. Like, I am debt free and I have my associate's degree. People Leah, cannot say that.
Yeah. Massive congrats to you. Those are life accomplishments. You should be proud of those things. Well done.
Like, you can get, as long as you're not like, just, I cannot stress this enough. Do what you think is best for you, not what is deemed socially acceptable and successful. That's literally the thing that people should be walking away with.
See, when Lee and I were at MomoCon in 2019, we're walking around with street smarts and book smarts. We were like, yeah, we know the game. We'll see you at the CNN Center to get some Chinese food. Let's go.
It's literally, yeah, literally.
I want to ask you guys what you think about mid-pandemic to post-pandemic world. Is this changing even more? Like, should kids even go to online school now, or what do you? I mean, how like, what do you think about the pandemic? And like, everything's going to change all over again.
That's like a moral dilemma, because especially when it comes to school, like, I'm going to community college still because I just want to get some prerequisites out of the way before I go back for my bachelor's, which is also a thing you should do, by the way. Get your prerequisites out of the way before going to a different school that's going to charge you more for something that it shouldn't be charging you as much for. But anyways, like my sister is going to like pharmaceutical school. That's what she's doing. She's going into pharmacy, and a lot of the times they charge you so much for a class that you're not even like there for physically, and you're not getting a lot of experience for. I mean, I think we're about to be coming out of the pandemic. I wouldn't say that school isn't
It's
something
open.
worth, yeah, assuming that everything goes well, we're about to be coming out of the pandemic. But assuming, I forgot what I was saying now, but it's just like, I think it's definitely worth trying school. But like I said, I wouldn't, like, if you feel it's not for you and you're not like 100% positive that what you're going into is something that you want to be your lifetime career, like, it's a big decision. And I don't think it's really fair to put that decision on 18-year-olds where our brains aren't even fully developed yet until we're 25. Like, I'm only 24. My brain's not at the 25 yet. But anyways,
You'll get there, you old
I'll get there in a
whippersnapper.
few months.
You'll get
But,
there. When you turn 25, it's like,
the whole world. It's like,
oh.
I can show you the world.
I'm
But
just,
it's like,
no, I'm 32 and I'm like, what's a 401k?
exactly. Like, adults don't know what they're doing, like, most of the time. So don't be fooled into thinking that we know and then
None
feel
of us know
alone.
what we're doing.
It's
None of
fine.
us.
But yeah, I think like pre and post pandemic, it's just like, I do think that you should still do what's best for you. Like I said, like, go into things, like, if you feel like hey, I don't really know if I want to go into this, like, don't immediately jump into university where you're going to have like $40,000 worth of debt on your first year. Don't do that. Like, if you're, I mean, this is just my personal advice, but there's no, like I said, there's no shame in going one at your own pace, because a lot of times people want you to be fast paced. Like, they want you to have kids when you're like 25 and own a house when you're 25. That's unrealistic. I'm sorry. That's unrealistic for the majority of people. So, like, just do you, like, especially when going back to like YouTube, because I know that that's what this whole thing was originally meant to be for the discussion. Going back to YouTube, like, do you, don't like let the algorithm dictate, because you're not going to be happy even if you're finding success in what you're doing. You're not going to be happy if you're talking about this thing that you're not interested in. And I can't stress that enough. Like, there's certain shows, it's like, oh, why don't you cover this show? It's because I'm not interested in it. And people can tell when you're not interested in things.
Yes.
They can tell. You'll have comments like, hey, you sound tired. It's just like, no, I'm just not passionate about what I'm talking about. Like, for example, with Infinity Train, I could literally talk about one singular character for 3 hours nonstop, unscripted.
Let me guess, it's Amelia, isn't it?
Listen, do not call me out.
I am adding you right now, Leah. Boom,
adding me that I'm going to talk about Amelia for 45 minutes unscripted, which I already did, except it was scripted in that instance. But yes, Amelia, Simon, and Grace, I love them. I could talk about them for forever. But the point is people can tell when you're not passionate about what you're talking about, and you could be so unhappy but successful. And that's like personal success. Are you financially successful and unhappy? Because then you're not personally successful. Like, just be happy when what you're doing, and don't let like the definition that's popular of success dictate what you're doing. Like, I'm super happy talking about Infinity Train, but like other shows that I don't talk about them because I'm not as happy talking about them. It's not that they're bad shows. It's just that I'm not interested in them personally. So like, just talk about what you're passionate about, and just continue to talk about what you're passionate about. Even if the interest change, just change with your interest. Even if the algorithm isn't necessarily happy with you changing.
At the end of the day, just talking, here's the thing, and not to get too philosophical about it. Talking about finding purpose and success with YouTube is a micro point to the macro point of the human experience. Because at the end of the day, we're all going to be old people looking back on our lives saying, did I find fulfillment? Whether you're a business person finding it through your finances, or whether you're an artist finding it through your content and how it's appreciated or how you appreciate it. It depends solely on you. You have to find that inner peace and be content at the end of the day with where you are in life. There are people who are homeless who are like, I'm happy. And I'm like, wow, you're happier than people on Wall Street who are just waking up at 4 a.m. crying because they can't find inner peace. I know it sounds weird. And again, off the beaten path as far as like some folks in the chat are like, I want to learn how to make YouTube videos. It's like when you're homeless and you find inner peace.
Going on
What are
like
you
a
talking about?
philosophical journey.
But honestly, though, like at the end of the day, you have to find your own inner peace. And that's not the same from like your inner peace might be different from someone else's inner peace. Someone else's inner peace could be having lots of children and working at their 8 to 5 job and coming home and hugging their kids and just playing with them. Another person might be like going to South America and trying to save the Amazon. That's their inner peace. That's their mission in life. We're only here for a second in the grand scheme of things, and you have to find your fulfillment somehow, or possibly not just be, you don't have to have an objective. You can just exist, and that's also your inner peace. Life's so weird that way. Whether it being on YouTube, whether it being working 8 to 5, whether it be white collar, blue collar, or no collar, like you find your own inner peace. And that's such a big, like, I look at like people going to college or teenagers or younger people, like they're still trying to figure it out. I'm still trying to figure it out. No one's beyond learning a lesson. Like I could be on my deathbed and being like, oh, that's what that is. And then dying. Like you're never too old to learn. So I don't know. It's weird. I think society's conditioned us to stay focused on our work and get so involved in it where we can't take a moment to step back and really appreciate the big picture of our own inner peace. And if you can get to that point where it's like, I have 100,000 subscribers, I can make a video a week or bi-weekly, and I'm supported, I'm sustained, and I'm content. My God, consider yourself lucky. Consider yourself blessed that you found the inner peace. Because there are people like, okay, not to get dark. Okay, not to get too pessimistic. But look at someone like Robin Williams. He took his own life. This guy was a god of voice acting, one of the greatest comedians of all time, somebody who is remembered forever, amen, for his accomplishments and for being an excellent human being, had his demons, couldn't find inner peace, and took his own life. And I know that's an entirely different animal as far as like, I don't want to get too off the path of what we're trying to stay focused on, but like, if you can find inner peace and find content, like work and sustainability with what you do, my God, that is honorable as hell. And I have so much respect for that. There you go. Yeah. Wow, good timing.
Right? It's on my desk every day.
And that's like
girl,
the thing
I like
too.
it.
Like going back to like corporate success, like Robin Williams was considered to be incredibly successful by the modern standard.
Right.
But with his like we said, he has his own personal demons. He never met that inner peace because he was unhappy. And it's just like, you can reach what is considered to be the pillar of success in our society and still be unhappy. So would you rather be at that pillar of success and be unhappy, or would you rather be what's deemed to be mediocre in the grand scheme of things and be happy? Like, which would you rather be? I'd rather be mediocre. Like,
it's perception is everything when it comes to existence. We make reality. Like, I mean, come on, when it comes to money and its worth, it's like, what's it actually worth? It's what we perceive it's worth. Oh, a US dollar is worth this much in euro. It's what we perceive. And then like, okay, for example, there was this old school philosopher from Greece. I forget his name, but he was homeless. And Alexander the Great apparently was like, I heard about this man. I want to come visit him. Alexander the Great, which is one of the greatest conquerors of all time, will forever have a moment in our history, walked up to the guy. The guy was sitting in his homeless barrel near a fountain. And the guy said, and I quote to Alexander, "You're in my light, move." Like Alexander the Great, the guy who basically was like one of the, like, what made Western civilization what it is today, wanted to meet this guy because he heard how badass he was. And then the guy's like, get out of the way. You're in my light, move. And it's like, whoa, I love that. You make of your existence what you want to make of it. So I guess I say that to say where YouTube is a machine that makes it feel like you're not good enough. When you get 1,000 views in your video, that's awesome. Keep growing. Find that fulfillment. Don't let a person who has like 1 million subscribers, don't measure your own success and your own fulfillment to them, because what fulfills you could vastly differ compared to them. Where YouTube, they're to them, you're a means to an end. They want you to keep growing because if you grow, they grow. But there's a certain point where you're like, I'm good. I found peace with how much I make with what I make as art. And I'm willing to stay content here and just keep going with it. That's amazing. If you can find that contentment with your work, wow, that's a goal. So, and I'm not saying people who are beyond, like, for folks who have 1 million subscribers or whatever, I'm not saying, wow, I feel bad for you, because they can also find their own fulfillment. I think Mark's very happy with where he is as a creator, because he could literally go, I'm doing this today. And it's like, wow, you have the autonomy to do whatever you want and your audience loves you. That's great. But at the same time, I see a lot of folks who have like 1,000 subscribers and they're like, I'm no good. And it's like, shh, bite your tongue. That's 1,000 souls who
you're
love
always
you.
good to somebody, and that's the thing. You're never not good to anyone. Like, you're always good to somebody, even if you don't know. Like, there could be like somebody, like, say your video only has like 1,000 views. That's still 1,000 people that you potentially like impacted in some way. Like, for all you know, someone could have been having a horrible, monstrous, bad day, and they watched your video and it put a smile on their face and it changed their perspective on something. Like, that's still a success. And in my opinion, that's still a success. And that's like a massive success. Like, touching somebody's life is such a huge, huge success.
I was at a convention. I got my official start with what I do through bronies, whatever. And I have no shame with that. It was just a weird convention, pony fandom, whatever. No harm, no foul. But I was at a pony convention in 2013. And my buddy Paleo and we released a sneak peek to our Bernie documentary. I know, long story, but to stay on track, after we were done showing that, this lady walked up to the stage when folks were getting up and leaving the room, and she grabbed me by the shoulder and she whispered in my ear, my son wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for you. And then she gave me a hug and she walked away. I don't say that. I honestly don't bring that up like, wow, good job. No, I don't. That was one of the most human moments I've ever had, ever. I don't know who she was. I don't know who her son is. I don't know any of that. But to have a fellow person who's going through the human experience with me pull me aside and say, my son wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. Unreal. To this day, it still shakes me to my core, where I'm like, I don't know, just think about like your own life, and to think that if some outside force you don't even know, who's essentially an acquaintance or a stranger to you, affects you. Like, that's why I brought it up, Markiplier with Unis Honest. I know how much that affected my girlfriend. If she had the chance to tell Mark, hey, you got me through 2020, you gave me the courage to keep going, look forward to something, structure, Leah, like you said, that's an honor. That's an honor.
And
goes
it's never
beyond
not
viewership.
for nothing.
Right.
It's never not for nothing. Like, it's always going to be somebody. And that's the thing. Like, you just can't. I mean, I know that's basically been the theme of our entire conversation, is you can't measure success by like what other people measure it by. Like, that's a whole human life. Like, it meant something to somebody. It doesn't mean that it meant something to 1 million people. It meant something to somebody. And if you break it down to like the basics, it still meant somebody to something. And that's really important.
Right. And honestly, I consider the greatest honor as a creator is when someone says, you've affected me to a point where I could watch an episode of the Rugrats or an old 1990s cartoon and be like, oh, I enjoyed that. That took up my evening. Even that's an honor. But to have someone say, like, you really affected me on an impactful level, like, that's the highest honor I could ever receive. Where if someone sent you an email being like, hey, you got me through a tough week of college, thank you. Like, oh, thank you. Like, I could be on my deathbed being like, I got someone through a hard day. And that's the final thought I would want to have in my existence before exiting it, is knowing that we help somebody on a real human level. That's cool. That's so cool. I love that. And that's the connection we have as content creators to an audience, and vice versa, versus TV, where it's very one direction.
Yeah,
So
we're getting like a lot of preaching, and you guys are preaching like in the chat. So just know it's resonating. Um, Unfortunately, like I wish we did not have an hour limit because it's actually already 4:10. I
oh
wish
my
that.
Yeah.
gosh.
So it's okay. It's okay. That's why we're
Well,
not. Listen, we're here to talk. Like that was the whole reason for this. That's why I was like, no, you're gonna speak and say what you have to say because it's appreciated and it's true. You know, like sometimes people need to hear that.
yeah,
Well,
this is
thank you all for providing us a platform to just
information.
vent.
Yeah.
There is like one quick or two quick questions I wanted to get out before we close. Because we did get one in the chat, and the first one is for Saber. It's from Blake the Nerd. They asked, what inspired you to make videos based on bizarre movies like Joshua and the Promised Land? And then to follow up with that, this is just our general question for you. Do you have any advice for anyone that's looking to pitch for the $1 Million Fund?
So for Joshua, it was straight up me finding myself in a corner as far as my content goes, because I was doing a bunch of like what ruined or what's ruining for like Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, Disney Channel. And I realized, there's a lifespan to this because you can only address so many animated topics in that arena until you hit them all up. And then what's next? I'm like, bad movies are fun. I've always had an appreciation for suffering through bad movies. They're fun, like Mr. Science Theater and stuff like that. And I'm like, I want to talk about bad movies. And I brought up like Josh from the Promised Land, and folks really clicked on that. And I was like, oh, sweet. We're having fun with this. I'm having fun with this. Everybody's a winner. Let's go. And then as far as the Frederator Fund, so much, because I think we live in a culture where there's the finance and then there's the art, and depends on the kind of person that you are, because you can't have the one without the other necessarily as far as on a macro level. But for me, like I do the drunk recaps, and Frederator's been a great supporter of that through their fund, and it's a win-win because I love getting drunk. I love talking about stupid stuff. And I love like just because I get to hang out with my girlfriend as I pop on the ground, almost passed out, talking about Space Jam, and then hiring artists to animate that and bring it to life. And then Frederator's like, we love it. Let's get it out to the viewers. They love it. I consider that not an unqualified, but a bona fide qualified success. And I say this to you, dig deep, look what I think one of the coolest things in this landscape where there's more content than ever before. I think it's actually been documented where there's more content uploaded to YouTube in a single day than all of human history combined up to like the 19th century. So it's kind of hard to stand out. What makes you what gets you excited? What makes you unique? Like my buddy Tommy Oliver, who's not part of Frederator, but I remember him doing a 4-hour video deep dive into Animorphs, and I was sitting on the edge of my seat the entire time with bated breath, being like, I want to know more. Passion is contagious. And sometimes passion, like YouTube, the algorithmic gods be like, nah, whatever. But like, I tell you this though, there is an audience of genuine consumers, viewers, supporters who are looking for authenticity. And if they find it, they'll support it. So dig deep. What makes you you? You are the only you who will ever exist, ever, ever, ever. So what makes you you? Dig deep, find that. What gets you excited, and whether it be Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or whatever, dig deep, and then get passionate, get contagious, and share it with others. Because I tell you this, authenticity can't be easily faked. And again, my buddy Tom talking about Animorphs, I knew about it at Scholastic book fairs, but I never read the books. Then his 4-hour deep dive, I was like, I want to know more. There's so much to us. He had a cane and a whiteboard and a camera explaining it like house or whatever, because he had a spine issue, so he had a cane to keep him holding up for 4 hours as he gritted his teeth and dealt with his spinal issues and his pain, but still explaining Animorphs anamorph so succinctly and convincingly and with passion. And my God, I got excited for that. Passion is contagious. That's my advice to you. So dig deep.
There's always literally an audience for everything.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
Yeah.
we're gonna close out on that note. Thank you both for joining us today for our second episode of Fred Table Talk. We hope you had fun. Did you have fun? Please say
Yes.
Please say yes.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
And
Leah,
thank you for dealing with the tangents.
see, Leah and I, Leah, you're ADD, right?
Yeah, I have both that and autism. So it's like it's both the thing. Special interest going off on tangents.
Right. Us
We vibe on the
neurodivergent.
same level. Yeah, we
Right.
vibe on the neurodivergent level.
Right. You're like, we've got these questions. You're like, 14 of them, you might get through 2.
And the talk was so much better for it. And this,
Exactly.
yeah, like I had a blast as a viewer.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you guys both for joining us. To all our viewers watching, thank you for joining us for our second episode. I think our next one is going to be not next month, but June. I think we're going to plan for a June Fred Table Talk. But if you had any questions about anything that went on today, feel free to reach out to us at support@frederator.com or by creating a support ticket on your dashboard. Have a good weekend, guys. And remember that Frederator loves you.
Yes,
Bye.
and jump in the Discord if you guys want to have more conversations like this. All of your Frederator peers are there. Keep it going. You know, you don't have to wait 2 months to hear this. We can all talk like this every day.
Yep.
That's true. Yep.
And Lee and I also have Twitter. So if you ever have questions,
Great.
if we can help with any, Lee, not to drag you into it and volunteer you, but I feel like as content creators who are blessed enough to do what we do, like if we can pay it forward, we will. So thank you.
Like if we didn't get into any questions that because we went off on a rant, feel free to like at me. I don't know if Saber wants to answer any questions too, but feel free to at me.
Same. At me in real life. Let's do it. Thank you guys. And thank you to both of you for hosting this and being wonderful. We had a good time.
Awesome.
Enjoyed it. But yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Enjoy your weekend.
Thanks
Bye,
a lot.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.